What's really behind money? For centuries, power has been written in stone and gold. But the real story isn't over. It's just beginning. This isn't your average crypto channel. Here, we go beyond headlines and speculation. We explore the history of power and the future of money. Sign up for Beyond Crypto. Start your journey.
Observe these coins. They are not just metal. They are the history of humanity compressed into a disk. For millennia, we have believed that money was the most solid, most real thing in our lives. But what if I told you that money has never been what you thought it was? What if I told you that money is not an object, but an agreement? A pact of trust that has been constantly rewritten and often betrayed by those who hold power. Today, we are facing the most radical rewriting of this pact, the transition from stone to paper to code. Welcome to Beyond Crypto. In this first journey, we will retrace the true history of money, a story that begins with shells and ends with an algorithm. A story that is fundamental to understanding why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are not just a trend, but a historical necessity. In the beginning, there was no money. There was barter, an inefficient system limited by the problem of the double coincidence of wants. If I had salt and you had cattle, we both had to want exactly what the other offered. The solution was to find a good that everyone would accept as a medium of exchange. The first money was not metal, but objects of intrinsic value, such as Cypraea monana shells in Africa or salt in ancient Rome, from which the word salary derives. But these goods were not perfect. They were perishable, difficult to divide, or heavy to transport. Humanity sought something scarce, durable, and divisible. It found gold. Gold became the first true global commodity money. Its value did not depend on a government, but on its rarity and the collective trust in its unalterability. When the Lydians, around 700 BC, minted the first standardized coins, money took an evolutionary leap. This is where the crucial concept comes in: trust. When a merchant accepted a gold coin, they did not just trust the metal, but they trusted the authority that had minted it, the king, the emperor, or the state. They trusted that the weight and purity were guaranteed. But gold was inconvenient. So merchants began to deposit their gold with bankers or goldsmiths and use paper receipts as a means of payment. These receipts were, in fact, the first form of representative money. They were paper, but they represented real gold stored in a vault. As long as trust held up, the system worked. But what happens when trust fails? This is where the history of money stops being a story of commodity and begins to become a story of power. The transition from representative money to purely fiat money is the turning point. Bankers realized that almost no one came to withdraw their gold at the same time. They began to issue more receipts than they could cover, lending money that, in fact, did not exist. This is the concept of fractional reserve. When governments took control of this system, paper money stopped being a promise of gold and became a demand for trust in the state. Money was transformed into debt. Fiat money, from the Latin fiat, let it be done, is money by decree. It has value because the government says so, and because we, collectively, trust that it will maintain it. But this trust is fragile. The crucial moment was August 15, 1971, when President Nixon unilaterally ended the convertibility of the dollar into gold. It was the end of the Bretton Woods system and the beginning of the modern era of purely fiat money. From that moment on, money is no longer tied to anything physically scarce. It has become a tool of politics. Central banks have gained the power to create money out of thin air, controlling the money supply. This power is the root of problems we take for granted today. Inflation. The continuous creation of money devalues everyone's savings. Economic cycles. Central banks can manipulate interest rates, creating artificial booms followed by painful crises. Control. The financial system is centralized, meaning every transaction can be tracked, censored, or blocked by an authority. This system worked for decades until it almost collapsed in 2008. The financial crisis exposed the truth. The system was based on blind trust in institutions that proved to be irresponsible. The world needed a solution, not a new gold coin, because gold is difficult to divide and transport. Not a new fiat currency because the problem is the central authority itself. The world needed a form of money that did not require trust in an authority, but only mathematical truth. This is where the history of money takes its biggest leap, moving out of stone and paper and into code. The answer to the 2008 crisis of trust did not come from a government or a central bank, but from an anonymous programmer or group of programmers known as Satoshi Nakamoto. Their invention, Bitcoin, is not a currency in the traditional sense. It is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. But its true genius lies in solving the fundamental problem of money: trust. Bitcoin does not require trust in a bank or a government. It only requires trust in mathematics and cryptography. For the first time in history, we have a form of money that is scarce. The supply is limited to 21 million units, replicating the scarcity of gold, but digitally. Transparent. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger, the blockchain. No central authority can print more of it or censor transactions. Money has become information. It is no longer controlled by an elite, but is distributed and verifiable by anyone. We have returned to the concept of commodity money, but in digital form. It is not tied to a metal, but to the cost of the energy required to mine it. The history of money is a continuous cycle, from the physical object, shells or gold, to the promise, paper money, and now to the verifiable truth. Understanding Bitcoin is not just about looking at the price. It means understanding the 5,000-year history of power and how for the first time, technology offers us the possibility of separating money. That's why our channel is called Beyond Crypto, because we are not satisfied with the noise. We look for the foundations. We look for the truth. Beyond Crypto, we explore the history of power, of money. If this perspective resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In our next video, we will analyze gold, state, and debt, the real history of money the financial elite doesn't want you to know. Leave a comment below. What was the most surprising discovery you made about the history of money? We are Beyond Crypto. See you in the next video.